let's first talk about, I think, the the athlete of the weekend, which is my girl, Miss Abby Steiner, who had two incredible performances. One, which I think is even more incredible, but won't get the real recognition because the time isn't as fast. But she started off running the fastest win legal time in the world, 10:92 in the 100. And when you watch this video back, it literally looks like her lane, her legs are like fast forwarding. Like it
Hmm.
doesn't look like she's running in real time. It looks like everyone else is in real time and she has some like fast forward motion. That's how
Yeah.
great her turnover is. Her start, clearly, she's not really a born and bred 100-meter runner. She's more than 200, so her start's not as good. But if she can figure out her start, her closing and her turnover is unreal. And there are some legit women in this field. I mean, Micaiah Briscoe and Aaliyah Hobbs, both
Yeah.
Olympians. So I think the sky's the limit after seeing this 100-meter performance. I remember talking to Abby after NCAA indoors, and she said her goal was to break 11 seconds. Well, she checked that off her
Yeah.
list very early in the season, but also she wanted to get better in the 100. She knew she needed to improve her 100 in order to really improve her 200. She hadn't run the 100 in many years. So you can't ask for a better start to your outdoor season when if your goal is to focus on your 100 and then you run a world lead, I think it's going pretty damn good.
Hmm. And then the 200, 22:38 minus 5.6 on the wind. Now, wind in the 200 kind of tricky. They're measuring it from obviously the home stretch position there, so it's tough to get an exact read on that. But that's her PB, which is pretty wild to think about. I mean, she's going under 22 this year. That's obvious because she ran 22 low indoors, so that's not a surprise to me at all. But like you, I gravitated to the 100 though. And I know she's had better performances, equivalent collegiate record performances, NCAA championships. But for me, maybe it was just the way it was filmed. Maybe just the angle. Maybe it's just the idea of going sub 11 for the first time. But yeah, I'm like you. The way I described it was it looks like the turbo button got stuck on the controller and like she couldn't undo it like 40 meters in. She's just going and not stopping. And I see this tweet the first time, right? The Kentucky tweet. The Kentucky tweet says 1092. That's Steiner speed. Abby Steiner gets a 100-meter school record, personal best, third fastest NCAA this season. It doesn't say what place she got. So as I'm watching this the first time, and we're at 50 meters, I'm like, wow, this must have been a fast race all around. She didn't even win, and she runs 1092. And then it just keeps going and keeps going, and she somehow seems to be accelerating even more and more the closer they get to the finish line. I always thought she was legit. You were obviously higher on her for longer than I was because you've been higher on her for longer than virtually anybody outside of her immediate family has been. But
Probably true.
this won me over. This won me over. And like I said, I admit part of it is just the manner in which this race unfolded, um, and just how impressive she looks over the last 50. But I'm in. I'm in.
I mean, you said you gravitate towards 100. I gravitated towards the 200 because I like doing the weird. I'm Mister Love the conversions, but I
Yeah.
busted 22:38 into a conversion calculator for wind, and based on her lane assignment, based on the altitude, and based on the wind reading, apparently 22:38 converts to 21:6, which seems crazy, right? But
Yeah.
Abby, uh, Gabby Thomas ran 21:6 with a little bit of a tailwind at Texas Relays. And I kind of am seeing that Abby and Gabby are basically very neck and neck right now if I were
Hmm.
to see them race tomorrow. And I think Abby potentially is on a really good day with perfect wind conditions can run 21:6. I know
Yeah.
that seems
Yeah.
crazy to trust a point 0.7 converter, but man, let me tell you, like you don't run 1092 and that's a headwind. It just I think the
Yeah.
converter is more accurate than we may think. And I really do think we have two American women who are both 21 mid to 21 mid high shape right now, which is incredible.
Mhm.
And it's going to set up for an epic 200-meter final at USA's, because outside of these two, there's no one touching either one. I mean, Sha'Carri isn't, obviously we haven't seen Sha'Carri yet, but she's not really great in the 200 anyway. You know, Gabby's coming off her Olympic medal. I'm looking at Abby and Gabby as being like the clear 1-2 punch on the US side. And if those two, I think, is also going to translate to being able to go up against Mboma and be able to go up against Lane Thompson Hurrah. I still would probably
Mhm.
take Thompson Hurrah and Mboma right now over either of
Yeah.
Abby or Gabby. But man, the more and more you watch Abby Steiner race, the more and more you want to kind of throw her in the Gabby Thomas category. Right now, I'm still going to give the advantage to Gabby Thomas, despite my year's worth of believing in Abby Steiner. I still do, but you got to take away the bias, and I got to recognize, well, okay, Gabby Thomas
Mhm.
is an Olympic medalist. All right, you can't just erase that because of a random headwind LSU 200 and be like, oh no, Olympic medalists, you're worthless now. No, you're at the top until you get beaten. So, but right now, Abby is going. Don't be surprised if she upsets Gabby, which would be exciting at USA's in Eugene.
Yeah, my other thought is I need to rework the 200 rankings. I just posted them last week, and I'm going to edit them probably later on this week. I need to do it already. She was not in the top 10. I did not have Steiner in the top 10. That's a loaded event, though. That's one reason. Because you put people like Miller Weibo in there, like Sharika Jackson. So you have to wait until you actually have this incredible outdoor time. Steiner, remember, didn't have an outdoor season. She's been injured a bunch last year.
Yeah.
So she had all these crazy indoor times, but the 200 is such a weird indoor race. You don't really know what to do with them. I I think we can get too carried away. I'm like every track fan. I love a good conversion chart. And shout out to this person at LMU who at some point in history made a wind conversion chart that everybody uses. We have no idea how good it is, but everybody uses it. I just I take those things a bit with a grain of salt, but look at the margin of victory. Put it in context of the 10-9. Put it in context of what she did indoors. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Uh, that's gonna be a great battle with her and Gabby Thomas. I mean, I'd also throw in there on the US side. I think it's gonna be fun. Prandini, remember, was sub 22 at trials. Tamara Clark was really close to Gabby Thomas at Texas Relays. That whole event, the women's too, is gonna be really good. It's gonna be really solid, and it needs to be if they're gonna compete with Thompson, Hurrah, and Boma, etc. on the world level. But I'm a believer, Garden. I'm a believer.
So one last conversion to throw at you. So
Good. What
according
if it
to
was a plus 5.6?
World
It was a plus
Athletics,
5.6. How fast does she run?
World Athletics gives result scores to wind dated performances or headwind performances, and according to World Athletics, it's worth 1231, which is basically 2204. Which I don't believe that. I think it's faster than 2204. But apparently to World
Yeah.
Athletics, it's equivalent to a